Okay, this fly is called a blackjack. It's a Prince Nymph variation. It's one of my favorite flies in both the spring and the winter. Since winter's coming up, I thought I'd show you how to tie it up. So I'm going to tie it on a curved hook. This is a Dairiki 135. We're going to use a tungsten bead and a little bit of lead wrapped behind the bead to keep it up in place. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take our thread, which in this case is 140 denier UTC black. I like the 140, the little bit thicker thread, so we don't have to make as many wraps to keep the body of this fly nice and even. I should mention this is a thread-bodied fly, so pretty much from start to finish, except for the tail and the wings, this thing's just thread. So for the tail, we're going to take some black biots. We're going to go ahead and measure them where we want them to be, and with our left hand, we're going to pinch them into place. Just do a nice little pinch wrap here. Get them where we want them. Make sure they don't go too far to the opposite direction that you're turning your thread. We can always adjust them after we put a couple wraps on. Okay, and we're going to take the thread right up behind those lead wraps and then clip the excess off. Okay, then for a rib, we're going to use some fluorescent pink UTC as well, 140 denier. Ultra thread works really well for this, or uni thread, excuse me. As well as UTC. Uni's a round thread, so it helps with the ribbing. If you're going to use the UTC, what I like to do is after I get a nice tapered body built up with this black thread, about to that point, I'm going to put a little half hitch here. Okay, now this UTC, what I like to do since it's not a round thread, is I like to take it in my hand and I like to spin it clockwise. What that's going to do is that's going to tighten it up so that when we make our rib it doesn't splay out over top of the black. It's going to keep it nice and tight for us. Okay, once it tightens up, I'm going to use the rotary on my vise just to make a nice even rib. Rotary's nice because I can see all angles of the fly to make sure that I'm keeping it nice and even. Right up behind the bead. Okay, at this point we're just going to take our black thread and we're going to tie off our hot pink. Clip it off. Okay, now before we go any further, I like to put a half hitch, clip this thread off, and then I'm actually going to tie up half a dozen flies or so up to this point, and then we're going to glue them. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue it just for the sake of the video here. What I like to use is Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails, since this is a thread-bodied fly, and at that point we can actually clip off our black thread. We're just going to put a little bit of glue. Oop, black thread's kind of going weird. There we go. Then we're going to let that dry. Oh. After we've let our glue dry, we're going to go ahead and take some 70 denier fluorescent pink thread. So we stepped it down a size, that way when we tie in our wings here, we're not going to crowd behind the bead. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some white biots, and instead of tying them in like you would on a traditional prince, where they're both laying the same direction flat over the back like so, we're actually going to tie them in as if it were a tail. So go ahead and face them in opposite directions from each other. Okay, kind of measure them out so that they're just about even with the body of the fly. Pinch them with the left hand. Just make a couple of wraps on top. There we go. Clip off the excess. Now as I whip finish, this is going to create just a little bit of a hot spot right behind that bead. Now this fly, it's got a tungsten bead, a little bit of lead. It's pretty heavy, and with the slim profile, makes it where it sinks real quick. As you can see, our glue wasn't quite dry, but the reason why I like to wait until it's dry or almost all the way dry is so that these white biots don't end up sticking to the body, and we're okay there. But that's a blackjack. Now that fly, it's going to sink quick, get down to the fish, and do pretty well. Let's go ahead and tie them up.